So I think the most important question asked to start off was, how was your day? What did you end up doing today? Start us off.
We had 2 on-sites today.
Sweet. How'd that go?
One went very well. The other one, we had to let the person go right after the presentation.
Ooh, how do you fire someone?
Before hiring someone? Before hiring the person?
Sure, yeah. I see.
You have to be very honest. You set the bar. You tell the person that she didn't meet the bar, so you want to respect her time, our time of the team.
Cool. We should take communication. What did you guys spend your day doing?
Yeah, woke up pretty early this morning. We have a team over in London, so I was talking to some of our users and our head of international growth over there, just sort of playing out, our next set of market research for a product line that we're going to be expanding soon.
And you?
I spent my day visiting a prospective customer, which hopefully after today will become a customer, one-on-ones with our team, and talking to my parents on the phone.
Very important stuff. I think we all skip brushing our teeth here in this talk, but the thing I hear a lot of is every day is different. And I think especially in the startup world, that's one of the biggest insights. People here are very adaptive. And to get a better context of kind of what we're all doing here and how those days sort of move you towards your bottom lines, could you tell us about your product and how your customers use it?
So we're a search API. Basically, what we do is sort of like Google inside your website or mobile application. Today, if you use services like Twitch or Crunchbase or Medium, and you've used their search box, it's actually our search engine that is behind that. So that's what we do.
Sweet.
So we're a business information platform. People come to Crunchbase to learn about companies, to discover new companies, do market research, build sales and marketing, prospecting lists, and so on.
And Tilt is a social payments app, so some folks use this to crowdfund cool events and parties and stuff with their friends. A lot of brands use this to launch like concert tours or crowdfund limited edition items. And we also have a Venmo-like product, peer-to-peer payment service that a lot of our users use.
So the funny thing is here, we didn't plan it this way, but I've actually had the chance to use every single one of these products. I have an interesting customer story for I think every single one. But especially when it comes to Tilt, I've used Tilt to crowdfund everything from a cave rave in the Sutro baths, which got shut down very quickly, to a charity drive for malaria nets, and then in between a trip to Iceland. So these are all versatile tools. And though my sort of story is a little bit strange, I'd love to kind of open this up to some of the stories of customers that you guys have that have helped you kind of build the product you have now. And I know with Algolia, you've got definitely a few interesting stories in the early days that now have become a big part for you. Could you start us off?
So I'll start with the Rap Genius story,
Let's hear
if you don't mind. So when we created the product, it was supposed to handle typos like immediately. So if you misspell a query, we basically understand what you mean. Very early in the days of the company, we reached out to Rap Genius. They decided to become customers of ours, but we're actually pretty proud about our typo management. But in the rap world, typos can go pretty far. So you guys know Rap Genius, right? So basically what they do, it's a collection of all the rap lyrics that have ever existed. When you write Lil Wayne today, how do you write it? Lil Wayne, whatever. T-Pain, for instance. So what's funny is that something that we're pretty proud of, actually, for them was like really not enough at all. Their day-to-day is to manage T-Pain, Lil Wayne, like whatever, like their own way of writing things. So what was cool is that they pushed us like really far outside of our comfort zone for their own use case that was their day-to-day. So we had to sort of reinvent that feature just for them. What was cool about the product, because it's SaaS, basically something that we developed for them, that was their day-to-day, was available right away for the entire world. So that was one of the cool stories that we had with them.
Another big one for me is Medium. We use Medium a lot. And something that I found just very intuitive is that Algolia really manages the search very quickly. And you guys have the secret sauce of bringing up the search results very quickly, though they are being processed on your servers. Do you want to talk a little about how that magic happens, without giving away the secret sauce?
So the mission of the company is to really allow my grandmother to use any service out there. I have an intent, I need to connect it immediately with the right piece of content. And by immediately, I mean it has to be very fast and extremely relevant. So those are two things that we've never compromised on. The service has to be extremely, extremely fast, so at the keystroke level, so any result comes back in under 10 milliseconds. Even if you have like Twitch, they have a user base of 100 million users. When you go on twitch.tv today and you start searching, you'll see the result popping up immediately. The engine has to be that fast. So we kind of had to reinvent the way you would index. I won't get into too much details here, but reinvent the way you index stuff. So we really started with a blank page here. So I won't go into the secret sauce though here. But basically, the way we did that is by just adding more signals, more information into the data, by also choosing our own servers. Oh, that's actually a funny story. We burned Samsung server, Samsung SSDs like crazy. I remember we had one day, we had OVH who called us, like telling us, you guys are just like killing our servers. We've never seen that before. So right now we're working with Intel and Samsung, for instance, on reinventing the way, you build an SSD, for instance. So I know that's one of the stories.
Yeah, sure. And Mary, I know when Tilt got started, it was something very, very different. What was it then, and what turned it into what it is now?
So that's a great question, Michael. When Tilt was originally started, James, our CEO, had this vision of helping folks in third world countries pool their resources to microfinance things like a well or a new home or something like that. But when he first built this technology, his friends back home in Dallas started using this platform to crowdfund not wells and homes and things like that, but actually backyard barbecues and slip and slides and parties. And so he realized very quickly that a huge way of building this company could actually be relying on the things that everyday users want to do on the platform. So that's actually how Tilt became what it is today. And throughout our history, we've really followed our users and built out like a variety of different features that have been completely guided by what we see them doing that we didn't expect.
Mm-hmm. And Neal, I think Crunchbase has a similar story. When we talked on the phone, you told me that Crunchbase was not a standalone company at first. It was part of the TechCrunch brand. And one of your own users wanted to see you guys spin out. Can you tell us a little bit more of that story?
Yeah, sure. So Crunchbase is a standalone company now, but we were originally formed. The database was formed. It was a database that was part of Crunchbase. Some very forward-looking engineers back in the day decided to create this database of companies and investors and so on that TechCrunch was reporting on, and they were smart enough to create it as a graph, and then they opened it up and allowed users to contribute data. And what ended up becoming very interesting and basically resulted in the spin out of the company was that it became important to the investor community, so much so that investors actually ended up formulating this almost like collective bargain where they started contributing data in a structured manner to us, and we now have over 3,000 venture firms and investors partnering with us and giving us their data, enabling us to curate it, and providing a service that we hope people find really trusted and popular and so on. And one of those investors approached AOL and said, "Hey, we think we can make a standalone business out of this." And last year spun us out and funded us, and along with a few other really great investors, and now we're here and making a go of it.
Cool. What I really like hearing about is sort of how customers propelled you guys to go into interesting directions. It seems like every one of the products here have evolved by virtue of listening to customers. And in your case, I know you guys are working on Crunchbase Pro right now. Could you tell us a bit more about what that's all about?
Yeah, for sure. So Crunchbase has been around for a while, and one of the things that people were thinking about during the spin out was, hey, we've had a lot of great user feedback. And one of the things that users said to us was like, I love coming to Crunchbase, I love learning about companies, but I want tools, I want search tools. And so we spent almost a year building out a variety of tools and other capabilities that we put on top of Crunchbase, using some of my friends here's products. And we released Crunchbase Pro, which allows you to do queries on top of Crunchbase. So instead of having to go and know the company you're looking for, say like I'm looking for Uber, and you can go to the Uber company profile page, you can now search for all sharing economy companies in the state of California who were founded by people who went to UCLA and who have over $16 billion in funding now, and discover new companies, research trends, and do some really cool things that people are. It's kind of opened up a lot of. We're surprised now what people are searching for in Crunchbase. It's great.
The big challenge then I think is, okay, so you've got some feedback from a customer that says, you know, I'm hacking together this solution using your product. I'm doing this funky thing with that. I know we talked about potentially using that platform for hiring, which is kind of a strange way of using it, but still effective. When that feedback comes in, how do you push that through to the leadership? How do you push it to the product teams and make that argument for the product going in a very different direction when you get that feedback?
Yeah, it's a good question. So when you hear that kind of stuff, there's always a natural, and I do this too, there's always a natural inclination to say, no, but our product does this. No, but wait, no. And it's really important to sort of bite your tongue and listen for a little bit. And I've learned that the hard way a few times. But well, you lose customers sometimes, right? Or you don't grow as fast as you think you're going to grow, or you want to grow. But we've had, actually I was telling you this story just now, a few minutes ago, about a customer that we met today who told us that they were appreciative that we're growing the database, we're adding more companies, and we're adding more data fields about companies. And they said, well, we're going to buy. This is great. But what if, if you had more companies and you had more data about those companies, the product we're buying from you would be better. So maybe we could help you. And they made some proposals, and my eyes opened up, and I was like, oh my God, this is really cool. And I went back to the team today and talked to them about it, and everyone was really excited. And so you do have to do that kind of stuff. We don't know where it'll go, but you have to put effort into it to think about it. And you really, again, like the whole thing is you want them to succeed, you want them to win, you want them to tell people about the great things they're doing with your product and your service, and that they felt heard, and that they're a better company because they're working with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really appreciate that. You're basically making customers your champions, and we'll definitely get into that a little bit. But before we do that, I want to talk about an interesting Algolia study that we talked about, maybe discussing today, which was, again, working with your customer in a way that you didn't quite expect. And I know you got one client that wanted you not to show all the results, but to block certain results. It's an interesting story. I'd love for you to tell it, if you're willing.
So we work with pretty diverse clients in pretty diverse industry. One of them is the adult industry. Yeah. It is a very interesting one, though.
Yeah. Search is important there,
Not for everything you think, though, but it's very interesting. In the adult world, there's a lot of twisted people, and yeah. And the adult companies that we work with actually want to filter out some of the queries that people type. We've never heard that before. When you talk to an e-commerce shop, basically, he wants to answer all the queries that are being typed in the search engine. In the adult world, it's not that true, actually. Some people type in things that you don't want to see. And they ask us, okay, can you guys build a way to filter out queries? Like, interesting, never heard that before. So we work with them on building this thing. We know that, okay, it's their day-to-day, just like Rap Genius is their day-to-day to handle Lil Wayne and stuff like that. So we built that with them, and now we know that, okay, now we have an expertise on, filtering out or like some queries, where can we use that right now? And there's certainly a ton of different industries out there that have the same expertise. Maybe, tomorrow is gonna be, I don't know, Salesforce. You use a search engine where you want to, based on your profile, not allow certain type of queries, for instance. And by, leveraging the day-to-day of certain industries, you're actually building the future of all the industries. So that's something that is pretty cool.
Sure, definitely. And I see Tilt doing the same thing, sort of seeing how customers are hacking together solutions. Here we may have a few competitors in this space, but I know you guys are doing some really interesting things outside of the US. And their customers have hacked together certain solutions. I'd love to hear what they've hacked together and what you've done about that.
So for more context, our core product offering at Tilt is something where basically if you want to go like if you want to go Napa Valley and you want to get a limo with your friends, you can sort of set up a Tilt for that. Let's say you need $500 for a limo, and if people pitch in and you reach that amount, then everyone's cars are charged. If you don't, nobody's cars are charged and you're not going to Napa, right? And so it's a very, very easy way of doing crowdfunding with your friends and making things happen. So something that we saw very interestingly internationally was that a lot of our users loved this product. They were using it all the time with their friends, doing tailgates, parties and stuff like that, causes, charities. But then we started to see in the data and also from our user phone calls that folks were using this campaign idea to actually just send like $5 for coffee to a friend, or collect $20 from each of their roommates for groceries. And that was really interesting to us. And we realized pretty quickly that one, while in the US, we might have things like Venmo and Square Cash and Facebook payments. Internationally, they didn't have those kind of competitors. So by talking to our users, by looking at the data, seeing the kind of engagement that was driving for us, we made a pretty quick decision. It was a big bet for us. We invested just a couple weeks in building out actually like a real peer-to-peer sort of option in our app for these users, and after launching that just 3 months ago or so, it's been really astronomical for our business. So now that's one of our actually core product offerings as well.
That's great. I remember secretly we talked about the growth on that, and it is absolutely nuts. I don't know how much you want to say on camera, but I mean, it's really acting in the best interest of your users, and when they're this hungry for a solution, it seems like they pile on. It's incredible. But then on the opposite end of things, what that may have been, had you not sort of parsed the data correctly, is an edge case. It's just maybe it was a small group of users who were kind of sending money to each other. How do you differentiate between what is an edge case use case and what could be a whole new product line? Like with Algolia, how might you discuss, say, with Hacker News or an adult film website where, okay, maybe we don't do that. Maybe this isn't something that we're really interested in building into our product. How do you just distinguish the two?
So one thing that we've done since the beginning of the company, we keep doing that, is that all of our engineers handle support. So the people who build the product actually do support. So we constantly hear things coming from the front line, basically, and they hear things coming from the front line. So they always have in mind, if something that they get asked has already been asked before. So it's sort of by, sort of like leveraging the wisdom of the crowd in a way that we take this sort of decisions.
And Neal, when we were talking about some of the ways that people are using Pro, we talked about investors looking for companies. We talked about folks like Startup Grind using them for seeding people into our startup program. Yeah. But then you've also got people doing some hiring on it. So how are they hacking together that solution? And are you going to build something for them, or is that too small a use case?
Yeah, so we have a very wide distribution of personas, if you will, that use Crunchbase, and Pro is no different. And one of the things, so we, like as I said to you when we were talking on the phone, we have people use Crunchbase to look for jobs. People are looking to, recruiters use it to recruit, journalists use it, sales and marketing people use it, investors use it, and so. When we were building Pro, one of our strategies was we actually tried to build something that could be useful for all of them, and that was a different kind of a decision. We said, let's look at the data, let's see what people are using this for, and let's build something that works for most of our users. It has resulted in some interesting things. We were at Web Summit last week. The days run together, we had a Portuguese software consulting firm. So they're developers. They build high-end mobile apps for telcos and healthcare firms. And they've been around for a very long time, and they have developers in like old countries that were sort of Portuguese colonies back in the day. Wow. And they came to us and said, we use Crunchbase Pro to search for telcos and healthcare firms who have a certain amount of funding or have been in the news lately, meet this trend score on Crunchbase in these countries where we operate, which are old Portuguese colonies. Mm-hmm. And we found new customers doing this. So that was really cool. And it's kind of the opposite sort of thing where you do have an edge case, but you have to imagine there are lots and lots of companies out there that have that kind of very, very special need, and we're able to solve that for them.
Yeah. And I'm actually curious, I'm always going to dig into these secret sauce things, but what is the trend score? You can kind of talk about it as much as you can say, but what is that comprised of?
Yeah, so it's a way for us to let users know maybe like that a company's kind of on the rise, and so we look at a number of factors: recency of funding, mentions in news articles, and a few other things that I probably shouldn't talk about before our engineers get mad at me.
Interesting. And I feel like with Tilt, there's just so many interesting stories happening that might be edge cases, might be trends, whether we're using it for parties or for charity donations or trips to Iceland. I'm curious to hear, an interesting story that may be interesting. It definitely makes a splash when you bring it to the office, but maybe it's not something you're building a product for.
That's a great question. So I think that one of the interesting spaces where we've had a lot of sort of edge case or a lot of folks trying to flex the product in interesting ways has been folks crowdfunding for events and folks crowdfunding for merchandise. So back in the day when we were just collecting using people using this with their friends and family for parties and trips and whatnot. We saw that a lot of folks were starting to try to sell things like tickets and stuff. One of the first use cases we had about 4 years ago was this guy named Gaetan. He's a tilter over in Dallas, and for his 35th birthday party, he wanted to bring Vanilla Ice and the Ninja Turtles and rent out the biggest stadium over there. And have a crazy 35th birthday party. And it actually, broke the world record for the largest Nerf gun fight, which also happened as part of the amount of money he raised. He got Vanilla Ice to come. He raised $75,000. He used that all using our original feature, which was just, people pooling money with friends, not actually selling tickets. But he started giving us a lot of feedback over the years about, hey, it would be great if we actually had a ticketing feature. All these people chipped in, and then at the door, we had to sort of figure out how to check them in, and that was hard. So we've actually been building out that stuff, and we've seen a lot of brands use it in the meantime. But one of the things that we treated not exactly as an edge case, but as something that wasn't in line with our mission, and therefore we didn't build it out, was not just selling ticketing and crowdfunding events, but actually removing the social elements altogether. There's a small subset of our users. Jared has sort of given us some of this feedback, but there's a small subset of our users who sort of want to just use it as a ticketing platform, not do the crowdfunding element, not see all the comments and all the photos and stuff from people. They want to just have basically a very simple Eventbrite page, and they like some of the Tilt features that we provide instead. And when we were looking at those requests, it was interesting because there's some demand, but the big thing for us is we want to be enabling people to be collectively creating the world and the events around them, right? And by removing all of that, we would sort of remove the heart and soul of what makes Tilt Tilt. And so that was one of the things where we were like, hey, that's the stuff that adds, excitement and love and stuff into the platform. And so we decided to lean away from that one, and actually all of these users, they still use Tilt. It was just something they wanted, and so we aren't losing any business over that, which is great. And we're also staying true to our mission and keeping the product simple, which is super important as you expand. You don't want to have way too many things to sell, because sometimes that can make it a little bit tough on the team to manage and on the team to sell.
Great. And since we talked so much about customer stories, I want to know a little bit more about how you're using these customer stories to either attract or retain new users. I think for many of your products, the success of your users, the customer success, is the key driver of the next buyer. It's whether it's word of mouth for Tilt, or whether it's the success of, say, Product Hunt being a key indicator that, hey, this is actually going to work for my site. How are you converting, oh, I like this a lot, into a new sale?
So the Product Hunt story is an interesting one, because we started to work with Ryan when it was in 2014. It was just him and I think Andreas at the time, the CTO. The reason why we started to work with them is that they were actually talking to our audience. Our audience is developers. Developers hate being sold to. So we kind of had to have them use the product in their day-to-day without having to purchase the product. So we saw Product Hunt as an opportunity to really do that. And so we started to work with Ryan. We gave the product away for free with him, to him. And we scaled literally a long Product Hunt, really a long Product Hunt. Product Hunt was one of our, if not our number one lead source, since 2014. Just completely insane. We just tried and it worked with them. So now we're investing a lot into young companies, because we know that as they grow, we're gonna grow with them. So we use that story quite often, actually, with Yeah.
Yeah, and that manifests as a logo near the search engine bar, or how does that look in real time?
Yeah, so you'll see our logo on Product Hunt. Yeah, so
Sweet.
whenever we get free never exists actually, but whenever we do this kind of thing, yeah, we definitely ask for some branding and.
That's great. That's key. And then how does Crunchbase deal with this? How do you guys referring clients? How do you making customer stories a selling point?
So we actually do it a couple ways that we're testing. We're testing new and interesting ways. We're trying to listen a lot these days. We just launched Pro, so our kind of the phase we're in right now is really getting feedback, and we've been fortunate enough that people know the brand, and so they do things like tweet about their experience on Pro, right? And they do posts, and people write about it, and great folks like you write about it. So we track a lot of that. But we also have a direct sales licensing business where we provide access to our API that basically gives you access to most of the Crunchbase data set to integrate into your own apps internally and to put into your applications. And that gets really interesting too, because that's when you can sit down with a customer and say, hey, look, talk to me about what you're using this for. Talk to me about what you, obviously, like what you like about it, what you don't like about it. That stuff's very first order stuff. But I think as I was alluding to earlier, if you can stop talking for a little bit during those conversations, which is hard for a biz dev and salesperson.
I can attest to this.
Yeah, and you can listen. You often you get a lot of interesting feedback, and one of the great parts about being a startup, and we all sit in one room, and we all have lunch. We have family lunch every day, and our engineers, we're not as great as making engineers do support, which I wish we maybe could do.
Really smart.
Yeah, but it's great. But it's like a constant feedback cycle, and we need to do that, and it's important at this stage, and we've learned a lot of cool things.
Mm-hmm. And I know for Tilt, it's a huge source of leads just to have a great word of mouth program. What are you doing to power that?
So the number one thing we do to power that is to make sure the product is spick and span, that it's really, really great. So every single time a user comes on the platform, they bring a certain number of friends on board with them because, they're pulling money together or they're pitching in for like the groceries, the roommates, right? And we want to make sure that for a consumer product like ours, that every single touch point is fantastic for that friend of theirs that's sort of relying on this platform. It has just heard about it through their friends, and really like the first impression is everything. So that's the number one thing we do. The fantastic thing about Tilt is that it's kind of viral on its own. Every single user brings on a certain number of other users. But in terms of actively sort of promoting like our user stories, we also do that on the business side. So we have a lot of brands like Conan O'Brien or Yeti, the Chainsmokers was recently on Tilt. We want to make sure that every single big brand that uses Tilt is actually getting folks that use the same agency as them or also are in the entertainment business, and that they're having a fantastic experience and really talking about the unique value that Tilt provides. So we always work very, very closely with these brands and these businesses to understand what went well for them and what didn't, and then we make those things better. And that sort of makes them invest even more deeply in our brand because they know that it's going to keep getting better, they're going to keep using this product. And then through a lot of those leads, we've gone them referring, other rappers, other artists, different things like that to use the platform as well, which has been cool.
That's great. So I would love to get onto the Q&A. I want to do one last question, and then you have the power of the crowd in front of you. So as everyone here, on this panel has had a chance to sort of teach the crowd something, I wonder if they could help you somehow. So in one sentence, what is your key focus right now? What could help? Mary?
Our key focus, I think our key focus at the moment is actually perfecting this new peer-to-peer sort of feature that we've launched. So if you guys want to download the Tilt app, see how you like it and send us feedback, that would be amazing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, easy. Our key focus right now is learning what people are doing on Crunchbase Pro and what they can't do that they want to do. So try it. And if there's stuff you want to be able to do, data you want to see that's not on there, let us know.
Cool.
Our key focus is on hiring. So right now, really actively scale the team.
Marketing?
Marketing, sales, PMM position, and all the sales team as well.
Sweet. It's beautiful. Really thank you guys for being here.